This is Youth Work, a podcast about youth workers delving into their journey of how they got into youth work.
Happy days. So, my name is Darryl White, and we'll be doing a few podcasts, launch them in Youth Work Week. So today is, what's today? Monday the 24th. It's just day 2 of Youth Work Week. So I'm happy to be joined here with Carlie.
Hiya. Okay.
So Carlie, who are you? What do you do?
So I'm Carlie Torlop, and I am a professionally qualified youth worker, but I am the youth and community manager at a charity-based youth organisation called YMCA Swansea, based in the city centre of Swansea.
Oh, cool. So what does a youth and community manager do in the YMCA? What do you have to do day to day?
Oh, a bit of everything. Managing a team of youth workers, really. So in the last 2 years, I'd say a lot of my time has been engaging with young people and trying to redefine what it is we do. I think COVID definitely helped us in reshaping exactly what we wanted to offer young people. So we spent a lot of time reshaping our service, and now we've kind of defined that into 4 key areas of work. So currently we offer the young carer service, the LGBTQ plus provision, a project called Y Hub, which is open access but works with those young people furthest away from employment and probably most at risk of exploitation, and it involves like street youth work and a lot of school work as well. And then a music and arts provision where we've got a recording studio that we're sat in. We're sat in a recording studio because it's soundproof. That offers then free tuition to children aged 5 up to like 30 in guitar, bass, drums, keyboard, flute, music production and lyric writing. So across all of those projects, I've got around, I think, 15 full-time members of staff and then 20 with including some sessional. So it's just kind of supporting staff, doing supervisions, making sure that, training is efficient for them. And I know training is a key topic for you.
Yeah, obviously,
but we do a lot of, as an Agored Cymru accredited centre as well, obviously we do a lot of our own training. So I also deliver the level 2 and level 3 in youth work.
Well, good.
So a lot of our staff are going through that at the moment. Yeah. And I'm delivering it for Swansea Youth Service and all of their staff. So we've kind of joined up.
Yeah, so you're the tutor assessor.
So I'm the tutor assessor, and so I'm teaching Swansea Youth Service and our staff on one course, which is really cool. Yeah, it's really good. It's a really good partnership. It's also helping staff make those connections like operationally, because a lot of the young people access both provisions.
Do you find like much different when people are given experiences working from a local authority to they are in the voluntary sector or charitable sector?
I think so. Like, as someone I've come from statutory provision. Yeah. I wouldn't say I would never go back, but I think I'm definitely most suited for the voluntary sector. Yeah. Only because I think it's more based on the needs of young people now. I don't want to say that statutory is not, but I think there's more red tape and there's, less hoops you've got to jump through.
You have more freedom.
More freedom, I think, in voluntary. I think, you can kind of go with what anything young people want to do. Yeah. And I think it helps you can identify the gaps more and blend into what the community needs, you know. For instance, we've been running an LGBT plus youth group a youth club for the last 12 years. During COVID, during COVID, it was identified that there was actually, much more support that they needed. So we applied for, lots of different funding and thankfully we were granted some from Welsh Government, from the Youth Engagement Branch. Yeah. And now we've got a full-time member of staff that works in that programme and offers like intensive one-to-one support, school provision. We've developed training for professionals. And we've got a LGBT forum that helps shape the service. So they've developed the training and the PSE lessons that go around all the schools in Swansea.
How many schools are in Swansea then? So how many would you have to go around in Swansea? Because it's quite a big geographical area.
You've tested me now. I think, right, I'm not thinking
quite a lot, I imagine.
I think it's around 15.
Well, that's a lot, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
it could be 12. 12's in my head.
Between 12 and 15.
Between 12 and 15, yeah. That's the number that stick. But obviously, I don't do much of the deliveries. So, you know, I manage the team of coordinators that then manage those service areas.
Yeah.
So, I've got 4 coordinators under me that then run the LGBT service, the young carer service, the coordinating studio, and the Y Hub project. So, yeah, you know, a lot of my daily time is spent on funding bids, funding returns, managing staff, delivering training, and just making, and safeguarding. I'm obviously, you know, lead of safeguarding as well, so making sure.
So who are you reportable to then?
So I report to the chief exec
of the YMCA
YMCA, of YMCA Swansea.
Yeah.
And then obviously he reports to the board of trustees.
Okay.
So we've actually got a vision day coming up where we're going to be looking at the future of the youth and community department with the board of trustees.
Yeah.
And we're inviting a core group of young people from the forums, because we've got a forum for each service.
That's really good.
Of
So
young
you have the
people.
voice of young people there.
Yeah, so we're bringing the trustees and young people together to look at, like, what does the next 5 years look like.
Yeah.
So they're going to be part of that. So we're looking forward, because, you know, who knows what is going to...
That's good though, because 5 years to us is probably nothing, but 5 years to a young person is life changing, isn't it?
And also it could be, like, actually the end of the service for me is in another 2 years, because it depends on what age they are.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, if they're 20, then they've only got 5 years left, you know. So, but if they're a young carer, you know, we only got up to 18. Yeah, there's a lot of things to consider, you know, and obviously depending if you're a young carer and you're accessing our young carers provision, or whether you're accessing our Y Hub project, what you want is obviously going to be very different.
Yeah.
So we make sure that we have very varied, lots of different types of young people, you know.
And I guess it changes quite rapidly with the needs of young people in Swansea.
And being where we are, I think, you know, being in city centre, there's a lot of change in, you know, what types of young people are coming and what the needs are. So we've literally just launched a 5-day drop-in in our new youth and community centre. So it's literally very white at the moment. Very bland, but it's...
we just walk through.
we just walk through there. But it's, you know, it's hopefully in a few months' time, it's going to be very colourful, and young people have actually now got a space that they can have a bit of ownership over. They're going to help us design it and decorate it and put their stamp on it, you know.
So how did you get to that stage of having a new premises? Because that's quite a big thing that you just brushed over, because I've worked at a local authority, and that would bite for local authorities would have been massive. But you guys from a voluntary sector that self-funded, how does that work?
So obviously we own our building. So the YMCA, you know, building is, you know, it's a protected, listed building. It's been here since World War I. It was purpose built to be a YMCA.
Oh, good.
It was a hospital in World War I.
Right, okay.
Yeah, but you know, it adapts to the needs of the community. It is a little bit haunted. I don't want to be here at dark. But yeah, so we have to stay very fluid to what the needs are. Obviously, you know, it's a big building, so it's very expensive to be here, which is obviously a big barrier for us to try and fund it. Project funding obviously doesn't cover this building alone. So we have to be very creative in how we keep the running costs of the building going, such as, you know, putting the lights on. And even employing, you know, front of house staff. We are a bit of a hub, so we do offer room rentals. So we offer, you know, there's other organisations that are based here.
So you can recover some of the costs.
So we can recover some of the costs, So we've got, you know, NHS projects are based here. We've got probation that are, you know, provide services from our building. We've got a counselling provision here. So, you know, there's lots of other charities and organisations that, you know, facilitate their services from here as well, which obviously brings in a little bit of money. We've got a little community gym. That's good, that generates a little bit of money as well.
Good for well-being as well, isn't it?
Yes,
you know, for everyone in the community,
absolutely.
For so low cost,
especially staff as well. Like, staff really utilising. It's really it's really good. I've definitely benefited from it. Like, it's...
Do you see
really
the links
good.
between them accessing that and their mental health? And
absolutely. Well, I know firsthand. Like, you know, I was never one to go to the gym, and going back about 2 years ago after COVID, I was like, I need to do something. You know. Especially with the lack of exercise during COVID, I put about 2 stone on. So
we all, we all did. I'm still doing the aftermath of COVID.
And I just felt, you know, for confidence, for mental health, you know, get in on that treadmill, put your earphones on, and just kind of block the outside world out. And that's what I used to do, and I still do it now, and it's great. You know, it keeps me going. But also, I can spend that hour thinking about, right, what have I got in the day ahead of me,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
what's going to happen today. And I'm thinking about meetings, I'm thinking about young people, I'm thinking about training, you
I
know.
bet you don't even notice you're on the treadmill at half the time because
No,
you're thinking of forecasting
yeah.
the day or the week. Or
Exactly.
Yeah.
So basically we did on the part of the centre that you've just seen, which has become our new youth and community centre, that used to be the city centre day nursery.
Yeah.
So for people working in city centre, that was a crash
Yeah.
basically. And they decided to relocate,
Yeah.
and the premises became available, and obviously then it became a massive drain financially, where we lost a considerable amount of money
Yeah.
that we kind of rely on to go back into our youth and community provisions.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was like, well, to the SMT. So we have SMT meetings weekly, and I was like,
that's our senior management team.
senior management meetings, yeah. So we call them SMT meetings. So we decided that, you know, young people could really benefit from having their own space.
Yeah.
Somewhere that we didn't have to have a pop-up youth club, you know,
Yeah.
using the theatre, using the dance studio, using kind of whatever room or space we had at any
Yeah.
one day. Somewhere that we could offer the 5-day drop-in, you know, where
Yeah.
they could literally just call in, there'd be a youth worker on hand to
Yeah.
support you with whatever your needs are. And then obviously we'd be then providing the other spaces that we would normally use
Yeah.
for rental.
Yeah. Yeah.
So potentially, you know, it is a bit of a gamble, a bit of a risk, depending on whether those rooms are going to be used. But yeah, so that's what we've done at this moment in time.
Do you feel like there is a link between youth work and risk? Because
Oh,
you know,
absolutely.
I always think back to like funding and things like that. You do take a bit of a risk, don't you? And
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, even when you consult with young people, which we have done, you know, we did a massive consultation with the community, so professionals, young people across Swansea, probably the biggest consultation that we've ever done.
Yeah, yeah.
And the feedback that we got was that young people needed somewhere in city centre
Yeah.
where they could just drop in.
Yeah.
So we are the only provision in Swansea at this moment in time where you can just call in.
Yeah.
If you're 11 to 25, you know, you can come in, you can access a computer, you can access resources, you've got a youth worker on hand.
Yeah.
And we're going to be delivering, you know, training, accredited training courses for young people, job searching, anything really.
Yeah.
Trips and activities, you know, getting young people experiencing new opportunities. So it's going to be anything that it needs to be, really.
And it can evolve, can't
It's
it?
going to evolve. It's
Yeah.
going to be shaped around the young people that are attending at any one time.
Yeah.
So it's going to be very kind of flexible and holistic.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really exciting. It's really exciting. So now all of our 4 key service areas are based in that one centre.
Yeah, yeah.
So also it's brought the teams together,
Yeah.
because, you know, even though we had an office and we were all working together, they were all off doing different things, you
Yeah.
know, being in schools, doing one-to-ones,
Yeah.
in the studio. And for the first time now, it's brought all of our staff that
Yeah.
normally kind of are quite, not segregated, but doing their own little things,
Yeah, yeah.
are all now in one place,
Yeah.
sharing good practice and
Yeah.
just, you know, bonding. It's really nice.
Yeah, and I walked through it, and you can see the way they were sat would be very similar to how young people would be sat. And I always think
Yeah.
there's a good link between like how they manage themselves day to day, and then they sort of have young people come in. It all goes a little bit full circle, doesn't it? And
Yeah.
they probably collaborate a lot more, just having that, you know, couple of minutes on the sofa, just having a chat, and
You forget
laptop
how
in front of you, and then all of a
Yeah.
sudden, bam, you have an idea pop up. And
Exactly. You forget how important it is that
Yeah.
just like those 5-10 minutes with all of your colleagues
Yeah.
and, you know, catching up, you know.
Yeah, yeah. You seem like a really proactive manager, and you obviously risen through the ranks. But for you as a manager, then, do you have much to do with young people? Do you still integrate with young people, or have you had to take a step back and think, no, I need to concentrate on my staff to be able for them to effectively work with young people?
If I'm honest, it changes from week to week.
Okay.
It all depends on my capacity as much as possible. Obviously, you know, with safeguarding, with meeting other senior managers from other youth services, networking at our level, also doing bid writing and project returns, monitoring our data. So, you know, we've got a new CRM system which I implemented a year ago.
I didn't even know what that is. It's an internet thing, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it's like a client data management system.
There we are. That's what a CRM is.
CRM system. So we've gone from like old school recording, like on, you know, kind of Excel databases and signing in sheets, to now like QR codes and being on like a data management system. So we record everything that we do now on that one system, and it's just honestly transformed like the way that we use our data now.
And it's mad because I imagine in a couple of years' time that will be out of date and you have to find something else
I know,
with a different acronym.
yeah, but it took me a year to find the right system.
That's
and
good
so,
though.
and so we've been using it a year now. So even just like, spending 2 hours on that a day or, that it all takes time, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But I don't spend enough time with young people, if I'm honest, as a manager, and I do miss it.
Yeah.
It's the only negative,
Do you get a bit of FOMO? Because I used to. Like, so FOMO, fear of missing out.
Oh,
when
FOMO,
Yeah, when you see your staff with young people, do you think, oh, God, I'd love to go back and do that for a couple of days? Do you ever get a bit of that?
I do all the time, especially when we've got like a staff WhatsApp group with all our work phones in, and they're sharing photos of they went to Pride in Cardiff on Saturday, and so I quite often think, oh, if I was there, like, it would have been so much fun, and but I do as much as I can. And I think I've got to tell myself sometimes, I'm very passionate about young people, and I'd much rather share my passion with the staff and make sure that they're passionate about young people than be a lone wolf and kind of be off doing youth work and have another youth work manager that's never done youth work. Yeah. So, I kind of see it as a positive.
Yeah, you're very much in the thick of it. You've been through it as well. And for those who haven't seen it as well, on Educators Wales website, Carlie's on there with a young person, wasn't there?
Yeah.
So there's a YouTube video on Educators Wales, and it sort of sings a little bit about how the youth work works in terms of the voluntary sector and YMCA. So if you haven't watched it, watch it.
Thanks.
That's a little plug. I'm also trying to plug Educators Wales as much as possible, so it's a win-win, really.
Well, I remember trying to get Swansea Beach on that, so I was like, we're on a beach, we may as well get the beach.
It was good, yeah. It was a good, it is really good, fair play. So I'm just going to rewind a bit. So you've sort of talked about the present day to what you are now. So leading up to getting to where you are now, what's been the process? So, like, I know we had a brief chat before the podcast, but, like, could you explain it in terms of when you started to think about youth work or maybe integrate with it, and then how you've sort of developed from that to where you are now?
So I think I'm pretty much like I've gone full circle. Yeah. So when you think about youth work, I think I'm the perfect example of what youth work can do. Yeah. Going from a young person who always attended youth club, like
here in Swansea.
Yeah, in Swansea. Yeah. So I'm from Gwasainan, which is on the outskirts of Swansea, and my local youth club was open 3 days a week, run by the local authority. Staff were amazing, always running different things, lots of opportunities, different every week. You'd go 1 week and we'd be doing DJing, go another week and there'd be a dance tutor. Nice. They were very, very good at providing good variety of opportunities, and I learned a lot. Very good for character building. I was going through a lot personally as a young person. I was going through my own personal struggles, and I think even now I'm the type of person to internalise things. Yeah. I'm an overthinker. Yeah. I analyse absolutely every situation. It's probably one of my greatest assets, but also my worst. Yeah. But I think as a young person, when you're in your own head, that can be a really dangerous place. Yeah. And the youth...
Do you pick up on that a lot? So, like, because of the experiences you've had, do you sometimes pick up on some of the nuances a young person might be dealing with based on...
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I always, and I have the same kind of thing that I say to most young people that I meet when I kind of see those characteristics in them as well. And I talk about how important it is about having a trusted person that you can say absolutely anything to. Yeah. And how a youth worker can be that person, because they're not going to judge you. They're not going to go home and tell mum. They're not a teacher where they're going to tell their colleagues. And and you've got to then go to maths class, or they're not your auntie where you're gonna they're going to tell mum over a bottle of wine. There's always as a young person, there's always those fears in your head about where's that information going to go. Yeah. And obviously we have got to stick to confidentiality, but I'd like to say in youth work, our level of confidentiality is always a little bit more different to any other profession. And I think we do hold on to things more than maybe any other professional that you would come against. Obviously, if it's not safeguarding, of course. But if you're a teacher and you want to tell a teacher that you've just tried a vape for the first time, that teacher's is going to go and tell someone,
Whereas you get a bit of a telling off as well.
Yeah, you're going to get a telling off. Whereas a youth, or they're going to patronise you. Whereas a youth worker is going to try and relate to that young person and use that as an opportunity to provide some kind of like educational moment.
And do you think that informality really helps as well? Because obviously in a school, a teacher might have an hour with a pupil. It's very much focused on their exams or whatever's coming up. And like I said, they've only got that 1 hour, sometimes two if it's a double lesson.
I think being a teacher is a really difficult job, and I take my hat off to them. They've got to stick to a curriculum. They've got
Yeah.
targets they've got to meet, and the environment in which they're asked to teach in is really, really demanding.
Yeah.
And it's never about comparing being a youth worker to a teacher, because they are two completely different
100%.
professions.
Yeah.
We both offer a level of education, just
Yeah.
different types of education. And youth workers have struggles just like teachers do.
100%.
I just think
yeah.
it's very different. And, at the centre of youth work is about relationships. Whereas
Yeah.
with teachers, it's kind of not.
No.
So, and it can be, of course, it can be.
Yeah.
But I just think that's what sets us apart, is that if
Yeah.
you haven't got a relationship, then is youth work really going to happen? Because if you haven't got a relationship, then you can't really
Yeah.
go any further. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So for me, it was the relationships that I had with my youth workers as a young person that really allowed me to express myself.
How did it make you feel in the moment? So you talked about like you're able to sort of express yourself and have that confidence to speak to your youth work, but how did it make you
I think
feel?
I felt heard
Yeah.
and cared about. Yeah, like, and I've never really thought about it like that until you just asked me. But yeah, just like cared for, like, my mum was great. I had a really good relationship with my mum, but some of the things that were going on with me, she was like the one person I could always talk to, and the one thing that I had going on couldn't come together.
Yeah.
Like, I had struggles with my dad, and she just didn't want to know about my dad
Yeah.
at all. So the one thing that I needed to speak to the one person I could normally rely on,
Yeah.
couldn't speak to her about the thing that I had going on that was like
Yeah.
causing me distress.
Yeah.
So my youth worker she took it to another level. She would listen to me, and I can remember probably feeling like as if she was the only person that understood me at that moment
Yeah.
in time. She was the only person that had an idea of what was actually going on in my brain.
Yeah.
And she just didn't listen, but she actually went that step further and tried to practically help me in like finding my dad. Like, I didn't know where my dad was.
Yeah.
I was like 13, 14, and I was really struggling with it, to come to terms with like feeling as though I'd been abandoned almost.
Yeah. And you probably questioned why and
Questioning
how
why,
and,
was I loved, was I not loved, like,
Yeah.
was it because of me, did he leave because of me, was I
Yeah.
not good enough,
Yeah.
Was he okay,
Yeah.
did he need me, and
Yeah.
having that pressure of like
Yeah.
me needing to help him at the age of 14 was
Yeah.
like probably ridiculous. But now thinking about it as a youth worker,
Yeah.
like, those are the types of pressures that young people put on themselves.
That is reality, isn't
It's
it?
reality, yeah.
Yeah.
So, there was just a lot going on, and I can remember my youth worker saying to me, look, you would be really good as a youth worker. Have you ever thought about it? And it was the first time I can actually remember the conversation. Like,
Really?
it was like one of those moments where I was like, it just came out of the blue. It was like, what are you on about? Like, what are you on about?
Yeah.
And she was like, there's this course. It's called Senior Member Training.
So what's senior member training?
So senior member training, I think it's called the Young Leaders course now.
Yeah. Oh,
so
right,
it's the Agorad Cymru accredited, like, it's
Yeah.
the initial step towards youth work. So it's like the level 1 maybe course
Yeah,
for young
yeah.
people thinking about going on to be a youth worker.
You might do that if you're thinking about volunteering or maybe having a career in youth work in the future.
Or not even that, like if you're taking on more of a senior role within your club.
Right, okay.
So like if you're going in and you're helping out with tuck shop, or
Yeah.
you're like, you're representing your peers on the committee of that youth club.
So you might
or
be in like a youth forum as
youth
well.
forum,
Yeah.
any kind of, leadership role with your peers, I would say,
Yeah.
is kind of what is framed around. And so yeah, my youth worker was like, do you want to go on this course? And I can remember going away on this residential with other young people from across Swansea, and
Yeah.
like I could name some of the youth workers that were on. They were teaching the training.
Yeah.
But they were so cool. I can remember thinking, you are just the coolest people.
So you looked at youth work and think, God, yeah, that looks amazing.
I want to be cool like you.
Yeah.
I don't know if I am. I don't know if that like works.
You're definitely
out,
cool. But yeah. Cooler than I ever was.
I do try. No, I'm joking. I'm just me. But yeah, I can remember like going away on this residential, and it was just a fab opportunity, and we spoke about things that I'd never really like
Yeah.
spoke about, and things just sung true to me. Like, we talked about values and principles, and I think naturally I've always been that born person with like very strong principles and morals, and I've been driven by them.
Yeah.
And even as a young person, like, my friends would dabble in like, drug taking and like, experiencing things for the first time, like
Yeah.
smoking weed, and I was always like, no,
That
like
wasn't
I'm
for
not
you.
into that.
Yeah.
Like, don't get me wrong, there was other risk taking that
Yeah,
I would
yeah.
get involved in as a young
Yeah,
person,
yeah.
but just drugs and those types of things weren't. I'd know my limit then.
Yeah. You had like your baseline. Did
Yeah,
you?
and you couldn't peer pressure me as a young person. I was never into peer pressure. Like,
Right.
I always knew what I wanted, and
Yeah.
if like someone tried to force something onto me, I was like, no,
having
I'm
it.
not into it. Like,
Yeah.
not into it.
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah, so I always kind of was confident.
Yeah.
But I think on the training course, it was like, no, this is like, for the first time I heard about values and principles being said out loud.
Yeah.
And it was like, no, I want to know. Like, I want to know more about myself. I want to know, like, what I believe in and what my views are. And those were the conversations. And I think I went away from it thinking, I need to work on myself. Like, I need to know, like, more about who I'm going to be. Yeah. So I can be proud of myself, because I didn't really feel like I was enough, which is kind of what my struggles were. Yeah. So then going away, it was like, well, I'm always going to feel like I'm not enough if I don't actually use this opportunity to, like, study myself more.
So it was like an empowering moment to
it. It was. And then I felt like this sense of, like, other people need this. Like, right. I want to do this for other people.
Almost like a sense of duty.
Yeah, like, I want to pass this information on to other people, and I want to be able to help. And then I can remember just feeling like, I don't know, this sense of like purpose almost. Okay. That took me away from the troubles that I was experiencing with my dad and missing him and not seeing him. Yeah. And that kind of taking over for a short time. Yeah. And then almost forgot about it because I was focused on this new positive, like... It's
almost like you're focusing on your future then.
I was focusing on my future and kind of forgetting the past and what I didn't have. I was focusing on what I did have.
Yeah, yeah.
So it just reframed a lot of my thinking and my mindset. And I can remember just thinking, like, this is what I'm going to do. Like, this youth work is like,
that's me.
I'm born to be a youth worker. Yeah, and I've just literally not stopped ever since.
So that was the hook then, almost. That sort of hooked you in. Yeah. That's really good that you can remember that. I find you and I are quite similar, because I always wanted to go into youth work from like early teens. Yeah. And sounds like you did too. And when I meet lots of practitioners across Wales, it seems like a lot of people like fall into it. They didn't realise there's a youth service, and then so I think you and I are quite unique in some respect, that there's not many of us that purposely from the day dot want to go into youth work. So that's really good.
Yeah. And that winds me up actually. Like it's a thing. Like you fall into youth work because people don't know about it. But I've always thought, why? Why is that the case? Like why is it not something that in Careers Wales you can go there and they say, if you want to be a youth worker, you can do this. Like, why is it not part of, like, the framework? Like, if you want to be a teacher, this is what you have to do. But if you want to be a youth worker, this is what you need to do. Yeah,
because I imagine if you went to a careers worker and told them all the qualities of a youth worker, they wouldn't necessarily go, oh, have you ever considered a career in youth work?
No, they put it into a website. They put it into a website, and the website tells you what you need to be.
Yeah, you might become a careers worker for... Yeah, we've got a job, actually. Do you want to go?
Yeah. Send you a job advert. Yeah, so I actually met with the job centre last week and was like, right, have you got any like people that are claiming that you're supporting, that are looking for job opportunities, but actually they don't know, they want to work with people but they don't know in what way. I said, because we offer the level 2 and the level 3 in youth work, and I said, if you've got people that want to access that opportunity, and then we can help them with accessing, you know, work within the sector, I said, you know, I'd be more than willing to do that. And they were like really impressed. So they've gone away now, and hoping I'm hoping that something's going to come of that.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
Yeah, because I think that could be a game changer for, like, you know, because when I even recruitment as a manager, like, it's a real struggle.
Is it?
Like employing people with the qualification and sustaining them then, like keeping them, is so difficult.
We'll go on to that a little bit later, because I know we're going through the journey, but it is interesting because that's probably one of the reasons we're doing the podcast. People can hear the lives of a youth worker, I suppose. So you've done the work you've done with Swansea Youth Service. You've done what we call the hook. What happened then afterwards? You started thinking, oh, do you know what? This is the career I want.
Yes.
And what sort of steps do you make to sort of get into it?
So when I finished the senior member training, and then I went on to do the level 3.
Would that have been the MVQ then, or?
I don't think it's... I think it was like the level 2 and level 3 combined. Right. So I think we've like separated them now. Yeah. But it used to be the level 3 was like...
You can do the full certificate,
There was no level 2, I don't think. There was, but I don't know. I think it was... Yeah.
When you're in it, it's different to when you're delivering it. You know the ins and outs of the complexities.
And it's changed now since I did it to now. But it hasn't changed that much in terms of like the framework and the learning outcomes, I don't think. But
just how it's delivered.
I think it was a much bigger course as well, I believe. So I started the level 3, and there was residentials and that involved. But for the first time, I was doing something, and it was like a real mix of learners. So, you know, I was with police officers and
really?
Yeah.
Doing the level 2 and 3?
Yeah, and someone from the fire service.
That's good.
Yeah, Tina her name was. She was fab.
Yeah.
But she was like, you know, close to retirement and just wanted to do something that challenged her. And I just thought
That's
it was
really
really
good.
cool. Yeah. So, like, I was with all, you know, these different types of people. I was with, like, people who worked for outdoor pursuits companies and just, like, yeah, it was a real mixed bag.
Yeah.
It was the most amazing course ever. Like, we become like a bit of a family, like, in the end.
Yeah.
Like, we were all just really quirky and, like, you know, I was quite chopsy. I'm still chopsy now, but I was much chopsier then. And, yeah, so, again, we just learnt about really cool things and just everything kind of, like, resonated with me in some shape or form. And then as I finished that course, they advertised youth club jobs. So it was like contracted for like 9 hours a week.
Yeah.
And one of the managers rang me up and was like, you know, do you want to apply? And I was like, yeah, okay.
So that's like your foot in almost.
And
then,
it was,
isn't it?
yeah, like I'd had other jobs. Like I worked from the age of like 12. Like I always used to go work with my nan, and like all through the summer holidays, you know, I would be doing things, cleaning with my nan, working in the kitchen with my nan.
Yeah.
Like I was always doing something. So I was used to working, but the first time this was like the job, like, do you know what I mean? Like a job in the job I wanted.
That's
so
the golden step, isn't
yeah.
it? Yeah.
Yeah, so it was like a lot of pressure. I was really scared. But anyway, so I did the job interview, I was offered the job. And then I started working in my youth club where I'd come from.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Like the worst first...
You're on the different side now.
the worst first night of a shift ever, I think. Like my friends went out of their way to just make it, like, bad. It was just bad. Yeah, they trashed the place.
They tried to wind you up.
They were smoking standing on the pool table, like burning things. Like it was horrific.
Really?
It was bad. It was bad.
It was bad.
Like when I say bad, I mean like bad.
That
it
was bad.
Yeah. So I can remember my manager ringing me up and being like, "So how was it?" And I was like, I said everything. And I was crying, and I was like, I don't know if I can do this job. And he was like, listen, you can do it. You were born for it. We just made the mistake of putting you in your youth club where you've come from. Like, you know, he said, it's too close to home. We need to move you. So I was like, right, okay. So he moved me, and then I went to work in like 2 other youth clubs that were like further afield. I didn't know anyone.
Yeah.
And yeah, and then I went from there. And then a few years after, and I was 17 as a youth worker.
Yeah.
Really, like, and I really struggled with like transitioning.
So you're trying to work on your work ethic as well.
Because I was like a young person in my personal time, wanting to like go to Wine Street and go clubbing and do all of those things.
Yeah.
But then also like trying to navigate those kind of like delicate moments where like, you know, boys would ask for my number and, you know, just you know, in youth club, I seen you on Wine Street.
You're trying to like...
Yeah.
Establish the
professional boundaries and conduct, you know, was really difficult to navigate. But
and you're still growing up.
Yeah, but I had really good mentors, and I was a really open and honest member of staff. And if things come up that I, you know, struggled with, I always had someone I could turn to that'd been in youth work for years, to lean on and support and guide me, you know. And I will never forget that. You know, there's people that still work for the service now that I consider my friends.
Oh, good.
And they were, you know, really good mentors, and just become.
It was almost like on the job training for you then.
Yeah.
You literally lived it. You know, you went through it, you done the qualification, they absorbed you into it, you probably understood how the service run, how young people start to work in terms of, you know, how you can support them as well.
Absolutely. So, it was a lovely journey. I really loved, like, it wasn't always easy, it was really challenging.
Yeah.
But I think it's just different from any other challenges you'd face in another career. Like, if you really want it, like, you just relish in the challenges as well, don't you? You know?
Oh, 100%. I suppose when you look back, you mainly see the positives. Because,
Oh, absolutely.
Then you know that's good then, don't you?
Absolutely. Definitely. And like, that's one of the things now I think that's helped shape me as a manager. Is like when my staff come up against challenges, I'm like, yeah, but you've learned something, right?
Yeah.
Like, what have you learned about it?
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, I didn't see it like that. Like, we dealt with something really challenging last week, and my member of staff rang me and was like, oh, you know, I feel really stressed. And I was like, yeah, but you've got to think about it. If you hadn't gone through it, you're not going to be prepared for it next time. And I was like, it could be like 10 times worse next time.
Yeah.
And then she was like, do you know what? I never thought about it like that. Like, now I could deal with it again, and I know exactly what to do. And I was like, see? Yeah. It's taught you something.
That's also down to your management style as well, because, you know, in some professions, you might have had an almighty grilling for doing something wrong, whereas in youth week, we very much celebrate the failure sometimes.
Celebrate it, yeah.
That's it. It's happened. Move
Yeah.
on. Let's learn from it. And
I think, that's what we teach young people. So I think we've got to do it
Yeah,
ourselves, right?
100%.
Like if we're teaching young people to, be more resilient, to manage challenges,
Yeah.
and to be better people, then of course, like that's what we need to endorse ourselves.
Practice what you preach.
Practice
almost.
what you preach.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make us perfect, but
Well,
we're human.
You're human, and youth week's almost about, you give a lot of yourself, doesn't you?
Yeah.
A lot of your personality comes into it, and
Yeah.
actually, you probably approached it how Carlie would approach it. Do you know what I mean? Not so
Yeah.
much Carlie the manager. You think, no, I'm
Yeah.
yes, I've got managerial responsibilities, but I'll approach you in my way.
And I'd say that probably is the biggest difference becoming a manager, is like when I was going through that journey of being a young person but also being a youth worker, like being a young youth worker, and almost having like two lives
Yeah.
and not two personalities, like I haven't
I
got
know what you
personality.
mean. Yeah.
I'm not that nuts, but like almost considering like what I was willing to accept when I was Carlie with her friends and with her family, to Carlie what she was like at work.
Yeah.
And there was very two different people, I
Yeah.
would say. Whereas now, I think they've just merged.
It's all
Like
fluid.
it's all very fluid. I'm just
Yeah.
one person, and like I know who I am. I know who I am in work, and I know who I am outside of work, and
Yeah.
they're not very different.
No, I think that might be due to age. I sometimes feel like that now. I often think that, and I'm very much a person of oversharing as well. And I'm in work, I think, oh no, hang on, pipe down.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, nothing bad, obviously.
No.
Better say that just for everyone listening. But yeah,
Yeah, make it clear.
as I'm sweating. Oh, brilliant. So obviously you've done the youth work. Oh, that's the ghost.
That was the ghost, yeah.
You've done the youth work level 3, the whole certificate at the time. Then you had your sort of 9-hour post, and then how did that sort of get to where you are now?
I keep stopping because we get
No, it's all
sidetracked.
really good. It's all really good.
So I wanted to go further. I wanted to, like, my vision was I want to become a level 6. My role models were all level 6 qualified.
To a degree, yeah.
So all of the people that meant something to me, either when I was a young person accessing the service as a young person, or when they were my colleagues and they were my peers, they were all my role models that meant something, were all level 6 qualified.
Yeah.
And so that was my like ambition. That was my end goal.
Yeah.
And I never really set any after that. Like it was just like, get your level 6 qualification and then you've
Yeah.
done it.
Yeah.
Like that.
But it's a really big qualification, mind.
I
It's a
know.
really good target.
But
yeah.
I didn't really set anything after that, and I've just kind of like, But anyway, so I signed up to my level 4.
Where was that to?
And well, at the time there was a partnership between Glyndŵr University in Wrexham,
Yes.
Swansea Youth Service, PIN,
Yeah.
and Gower College.
Yeah.
So the course was based in Gower College, 1 day a week, but it was run by Gower College tutors or lecturers, and then accredited by a Glyndŵr.
Yeah, so offer the institution sort of degree,
Yeah. So it was a 3-way partnership, and I had the most amazing lecturer or course tutor. His name was Steve Harrison, who I'll never forget, and he was the biggest reflective practitioner.
Good.
I don't even think I'd call him a youth worker. I would just call him a reflective practitioner. Like, he was the very symbol of reflective practice.
Really, yeah.
Yeah.
That's
and
good.
everything he said just memorised me. Like, I can remember just sitting in class and just thinking, like, this person. And I became his person to, like...
You was the go-to then.
Yeah, what was I saying, Carl? And I was like, he was saying this.
Yeah.
And I just always kept track of, like, everything that he was saying, which was completely different to school. Like, in school, if I went to school, it was something, you know.
Yeah.
So, you know, the fact that I was sat on my level 4 degree and I was like SWAT.
Yeah.
You know, something that I never was used to be in.
Was you just fully engaged?
Fully engaged in, like, everything he had to say. Like, was excited to do, like, assignments. It was weird.
Uni does bring out weird stuff in you sometimes.
It
like,
does,
who gets
right?
excited for
Like,
assignments?
and also,
But
I
you do.
learned how to, like, spell and read and write.
Were you writing at a level
youth
4
work.
standard?
Yeah, but like in school, I was like, couldn't really read very well, like couldn't really write. Like, I wasn't the most intellectual. Like, I wasn't bad. I was like mediocre. Like, I was a medium level academic, and like youth work like has just brought out a different side of me.
Yeah.
Like now I can pick up a book and I'm, you know, very good at reading and writing now, I would say, or much better. But that was because of youth work.
Yeah.
Like
Well, they
reading and writing
developed,
things that I wanted, that I was interested in, you know?
I suppose they built your academic ability, and then when you got to your corporate writing, you feel like your bids, your reports.
If you told 16-year-old Carlie that she would be responsible for writing youth work policies for a youth work charity, she would have been like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, what's going on here? Yeah. I often think like that as well, you know?
So then I started my degree, and then some more posts come out, giving more hours and more responsibility. So they were called like substantial hourly posts or something they were called.
Okay.
But they were funded by Communities for Work. So they were like 18.5-hour posts. And I was assigned to like an area of Swansea where then I had like run community projects, run youth forums, like, yeah, just like anything really. It was very holistic. And then the job changed a little bit because of the youth engagement progression framework.
Yeah.
So I became a bit of a lead worker. So then they changed my area, and then my area became the city centre.
That's quite a substantial change, isn't it? The emphasis in it.
It was, well, it just changed my job completely.
Yeah.
So yeah, they changed my area to the city centre of Swansea. And a lot of my young people who were assigned on my caseload were accessing a homeless provision.
Yeah.
So I used to go there, and then I was like, where you all going, like, you know, in the evenings? And someone just mentioned that there was a youth club in the YMCA.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay. And then I worked out that like a lot of my young people on my caseload were going to this youth club to be fed.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So
after school, yeah.
Yeah. So I approached the YMCA and was like, hey, can I like, you know, come and support the club, and I'll be there, you know, working in partnership. I'll be, you know, I'm on work time, so I'm, you know, can we start a partnership? We'll do a partnership agreement. I'll come in and, you know, be a worker almost.
Yeah, yeah. Part of the fabric. Yeah.
So that was signed off by managers here at the YMCA and managers from Swansea Youth Service.
Yeah.
And so then, yeah, I was coming here on I think it was a Tuesday night, and helping to run the club. And I think I helped them almost, you know, set some club rules, like for the young people, introduced some like kind of, you know, safeguarding protocols and things like that. And then they were like, hey, there's a job coming up. Will you apply?
Oh, good.
And when I looked, I was like, oh, it's full time. I don't know if I can do it on top of uni. And they were like, we'll support, like, we'll give you the 1 day a week for uni.
That's really good.
So I was like,
really good.
Okay, then yes, it's double the money. Yes, please.
Yeah, absolutely. Gotta go for it.
Yeah. And I thought, you know what, that was my goal, was becoming a level 6 full-time qualified youth worker. It didn't matter where. That was just like the only thing I'd set myself.
Yeah.
So that's what I started doing, and then I was responsible for working here. I had the job basically. And I was responsible for working here with a team of 2 other people. And after that, the team got bigger, projects got bigger, because obviously we were evidencing that we were achieving things, and then, you know, we had more ability to grow.
So you're able to prove your outcomes,
show our worth. So obviously the service was getting a little bit bigger, and then they were like, will you become the team leader? So I was like, yeah, of course, no problem. So I became the team leader, and then gradually I've been here now 10 years. I think I've been youth and community manager for 4.
Wow. That's good.
Yeah. So it's kind of been like a gradual progression. I feel as if like this is my place.
This is you, like,
this is me. Yeah.
Do you feel at home even though you're at work?
Yeah, I feel at home. Like for a long time, actually, this was my home. Like not physically, but like I was going through something, and this was my escape. Like I know who I am in work. Like I know what we're here to do, and I just I'm confident.
It sometimes goes to show that even though you come to work with, sometimes people like have negative associations with. Youth work's different, isn't it? You come to work and sometimes it just makes you feel better. Yeah. Even though you could have like stuff going on at home. Yeah. Come through the door, you feel like a family feel sometimes.
We were talking about this as a group of the staff, and I were talking about this the other day in our team meeting, and how, you know, there's that perception of you don't take things, you leave your problems at the door basically when you go to work. And I'm just like, nah,
No.
that's not the reality of the world that we live in, is it?
No.
That it's not realistic. Like, people can't do that.
No.
And the minute that you put that pressure on them is a moment that it's not ever going to work.
Yeah.
And so we do call ourselves a bit of the YMCA family.
Yeah.
And we support each other. We're very open and honest. And I say the opposite. Please bring your stuff to work.
Yeah.
Because if I don't know about it, then I can't help you. So,
absolutely,
you know, and I feel like we've got a really good balance.
Yeah.
You know, obviously it can't take over because then it affects young people.
100%.
But actually, if we're affected, how much can we support young people then anyway?
There's that stress bucket in it, and you keep adding water into it, you know, when you can't add water in it if it's already full, isn't it? So, yeah. 100%, yeah.
So, so that's my journey, really.
Yeah. That sounds really good, really, really good.
Thanks.
No, I like listening to how people got into youth work, because I often think of myself in that situation as well, because you sometimes put yourself in the scenario, and I can really see that, you know, I really felt the passion that you had, and it seems as if you brought YMCA along with you as well, and the 4 years you've been manager as well, so you've created a good sort of working culture here in YMCA, so you should be proud of that. Really good.
Thank you. Yeah. Cheers. That means a lot.
No, but you mentioned, we sort of come off the subject, and I'm going to bring it back on because you mentioned it now, but obviously in youth work across Wales, recruitment, retention is just huge. I know it's the same for a lot of professions, social work, teaching, probably loads of others, but we're youth workers, obviously we're going to focus a lot of our attention on that. So what, you know, in terms of what you guys have had in YMCA, if you ever experienced recruitment issues or retention issues, I know you've made a link between the qualification, registration and all
the time. Like, you know, I said that we've been kind of through a bit of a reshape, but that has also been like, you know, top down as well, where we've not just changed what our services look like, you know, that directly supporting people, but actually some of the processes and strategies that, you know, we use day to day, you know, as chief exec and the senior management team. So things like our pay structure, our training strategy, you know, all of our policies have been redone in the last year.
Really?
So it's been like a very, like, let's just have a complete and utter revamp of like everything that we know. We're going to review everything, all of our processes, you know, all of our structures, everything is going to be reviewed basically. And so, you know, pay and staff recruitment and retention has been a big discussion with the board of trustees as well. Whereby, you know, we felt as though we weren't probably competitive in what we were offering in the first instance, and I think there has become a bit of a competitive, isn't there, like pay structure across the sector.
100%.
So we upped, you know, what we were paying staff and now what we advertise. Still not, you know, like statutory sector, I suppose, and it's never going to be. But that is the world of the voluntary, you know, sector, I suppose. But it's much better from what we've come from. We now look at, you know, only applying for bids and funding that we feel are a really good match for what we deliver. So
you're not making the funding fit.
We're not making funding fit anymore, which I think has had a massive impact on the well-being of our workforce as well.
That's good.
I think, you know, our work is much more well directed into where we fit into the community. So like, you know, if we're not best placed to deliver something, we're just not going to do it. And that is, I think, you know, we've applied our values all of a sudden.
So you know your brief, you know what you're about. You've got your strong sort of mission.
Absolutely.
If it falls outside of that, leave it go. Someone else can apply.
And I think, you know, what we've also pledged to is like not applying for small pots of money, whereby, you know, the outcomes and the expectations of the delivery are enormous and outweighs actually the resources for being able to deliver that.
By the time you've reported back, have you really made any money?
Absolutely nothing.
It's hard, isn't it?
And it just puts extra strain on staff, makes them stressed. So we've decided not to do that. And so we only focus on, like, you know, big sustainable projects that we can actually get into and make them worthwhile, you know, with big outcomes for young people. So it's holistic and it's shaped around the needs of individual young people is what we truly believe in. So I would say retention has gotten better because we really invest in staff.
Good,
Like,
yeah.
you know, we really invest. We give them as many, you know, opportunities for them as what we would a young person. Well, we
Yeah.
try to.
Yeah.
You know, training has been a priority this year.
Oh, good.
So, you know, it's
Yeah.
good timing because all your training come up.
Yes, that's true.
So that really did fall
And
into
it's all free.
Yeah, it's all free. Free training.
I'll have to put the link in the comments bit now.
Yeah.
We'll see it shoot up.
Free training,
Yeah.
ETS Wales.
Yeah, go for it. It's there. You want it to be used.
Yeah, so it actually fell for a really good time for us because
Good.
we were going through the gold quality mark and we'd just gone through the silver. And so one of the things that came out of that was, right, training is like our priority now for
Yeah.
the next 2 years. Like, I want staff to feel skilled and confident
Yeah.
to be able to meet the demands and needs of young people.
And they changes all the
And
time.
they change all
Yeah.
the time. And I just think, you know, training hadn't been a priority for such a long time because of other issues like COVID. And,
Yeah.
you know, so I think we had fallen behind.
And everyone focuses on the client, the young person, and sometimes neglect themselves.
Yeah.
But it goes full circle because when you neglect yourself, your biggest resource in your service
You can't fulfill the needs.
is your staff, isn't it?
Yeah.
And they've got to keep topping up their professional development
Exactly,
and learning to be able to meet the needs, you know.
And I think, you know, you have to, as an employer, you have to be appealing as well to staff wanting to stay with you. Like, you know,
Oh,
they
yeah.
actually gain something from being there.
Yeah.
You know, development, personal and professional opportunities for development are
100%.
massive.
Yeah.
So, you know, we do try. I don't think we're amazing yet, but I think, you know, it's definitely still a priority for something that myself, the SMT, and, you know, the trustees are definitely still eager to develop in the future, you know.
Yeah,
and it's
yeah.
still one of our key aims, really, for, you know, the service. But one of the things that we did put in place was that we're only willing now to employ qualified staff. We will accept non-qualified, but because we're an Agorad Cymru Centre,
You can
we make a commitment to, like, you know, yes, we would like to offer you the job. However, as part of this contract, you know, you
Yeah.
will be expected to fulfil and complete the level 2 and level
You're
3 in
growing
youth
from
work.
within.
So we're growing our own,
Yeah.
yeah. So, you know, and then also I teach on that. So I also feel like I get to shape
Yeah.
that learning experience
Yeah, 100%.
in the way that I want my staff to work.
Yeah.
So it's working really well for us. Like, I'm teaching 2 at the moment with Evolve.
That's really good.
And yeah, so I've got a lot of staff waiting to go on to the level 3, so I'm hoping to start the level 3 soon.
Yeah.
I
get FOMO everyone delivering qualifications and I'm not. I see everyone. I just
you
love
should come
it.
and teach it with me.
Oh my god.
You should.
I'll be a nightmare. I haven't done it since before COVID. I did it during COVID. That was hard, but I miss it. I miss it massively.
I'm teaching Evolve tomorrow night, and you're
Yeah.
more than welcome to come along.
Oh, maybe I will. I'll just turn up.
Just turn up, yeah.
Just knock the
fine.
door. Can I come in?
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, and I do get massive FOMO, you know. But have you noticed since sort of embracing the training culture and that the quality of staff has sort of increased? You know, because obviously that's what you want, isn't it?
Absolutely, I think it has, yeah. And I can see it in practice as well, like how they are taking theory to practice.
Okay.
And just like in meetings, you know, the way they're talking and the way they're, you know, I think before you have and this is not a stereotype, I think this is just my experience.
Yeah.
So I don't offend anybody that's listening to this, but I think in my experience, when I hear as a manager unqualified staff, maybe with a lot of experience, but sometimes who haven't gone through the process of the level 2 and level 3, when they talk about young people, sometimes they talk about young people in a way that maybe isn't always encouraged, and it kind of sets a precedent.
Well, one of the units in there is about communicating and
engaging, yeah. And I always talk about the way in which we talk about young people, even when they're not there.
Yeah.
Like, you know, they deserve, if we've got a relationship and they're where the people that they can trust the most, then the way that we talk about young people is really important.
What's their dignity as well, isn't it? You know, even though they don't know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And, you know, when I hear, you know, and when we think about like writing things up, so when we're reflecting and we're, you know, recording some of our reflections on whatever systems we use, and then, you know, later on we find another job and then someone else comes in and takes over, you know, and they've got to read those notes. How is that young person being spoken about? You know, you know, all young people go through issues, all young people go through challenges, and sometimes we stick the challenge to them rather than separating them.
100%. I agree with that, because I think sometimes people do the level 2 and 3, and sometimes the degree courses as well, and expect not to learn anything. Well, actually, I think if I was to reset 2 to 3 to 6, I would learn something again.
I'm learning mine, teaching it, because I've got to sit back and I've got to reread everything.
Yeah.
I'm watching like YouTube videos that I've never watched before.
Yeah.
Like I'm literally studying to teach it.
Yeah.
Like it is really good, and I'm loving it. And to be honest with you, I think I've become just as passionate about teaching youth work as I was delivering it.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you think, like, you know, if we was to sell this to someone, you almost want to say, take our word for it, just do it, it's going to make you better. But like, what would be your sort of advice to someone thinking, I want to do it, but I'm not sure if it's for me, or I'm not sure, I might already know the information.
Well, if you listen to my journey, like, it was the training that was the hook for me.
Yeah.
So, you know, it was just as big as my... it was just as big as my youth workers, you know, supporting me. The training just kind of was the link to everything I'd experienced.
Yeah.
And then, you know, what it was I needed to know.
Yeah.
And it wasn't actually as professionally... It was just as... How can I put this? Hang on, I'm getting confused now. It basically changed me personally just as much as it did help me as a youth worker.
From like a mindset perspective.
Like I feel like I was a different person coming out of the course. Like,
Good.
You know, the way that I thought was different. My mindset was different. I was more open, honest. I don't know, it was just like, it was like the hook. That just linked everything together. That's
like the model answer. So if anyone's thinking about going to do the level 2 and 3, that is a good solid reason to do it, you know, and that's what the expected outcomes is, isn't it?
You probably won't find anyone as passionate about the level 2 and level 3 as me. Like, honestly, like I sit in meetings and I'm like, you've got to do the level 2 and 3. You've got to do it.
Yeah, got to do it, and it's got to be done well.
I've been saying it for years, and like to the same people, and they're probably like, oh my god, here she goes again.
You'll have a tattooed on you soon.
Yeah. Do the level 2 and level 3.
This is what I'm about.
Register with EWC.
Yeah, but that's the thing, isn't it? We want a professional workforce, and this is how we do it, isn't it?
Yeah, and honestly, like I'm loving all of the changes at the moment in the youth work sector. Like, you know, from going, you know, from doing it when I was 17, which is what, 18 years ago.
Wow. Yeah.
So, you know, doing youth work 18 years now, and, you know, youth work is still very undervalued and misunderstood, isn't it?
100%.
Like, you know, youth workers that have been in the sector for years still can't really explain what it is they do.
No.
Like, what is it that we do? Like,
there's nothing that actually tells us what we do.
I can't give you a one-liner, can I? I can't give you like a one-liner. Like, you've got to listen to the full hour of me talking to completely understand.
They fast forward, go back.
Yeah, so like, you know, unless you want to bore someone to death, which they don't actually care about it, you know, that is the only way you're going to be able to explain, because youth work is so many different things to so many different people.
You've got to live it as well.
You've got to live and breathe it, yeah. So, yeah, but I do live and breathe it.
Yeah.
So...
Before, no, it's been really good, Carlie, and I love how sort of enthusiastic you are about this, because I think we need more people like this, because, you know, I can feel a bit of a resurgence in youth work at the moment. I'm not sure if it did have a bit of a dwindle, maybe that was because of COVID. Yeah. I feel as if we're sort of, I don't know, I feel something happening. I don't know whether it's just me. I'm probably a bit biased because I'm in a national role, and I meet with Welsh Government officials and other people across the sector, so I do feel like resurgence.
I feel something. Like, in my gut, I feel something. I think it's like, and I'm excited for it.
Yeah.
Like, you know, the youth work strategy stuff, like, that's all been brilliant. Like, you know, the interim youth work board has all been brilliant stuff. Like, so much has come out of it, and I don't think it's been talking a stick. No. Like, it's been a proper... meaningful, purposeful like process, and I have only got good things to like say about it. I think the whole sector was included, you know, young people were at the heart of it. I feel like it's gone somewhere, you know, the recommendations that have gone to the minister, you know, and how they've been viewed and kind of, you know, not dismissed. I think a lot of people, you know, probably don't feel like that, you know, but you know, there's always going to be different views when it comes to politics and things, you know, that it's everyone has different views, but I feel like coming from where we have been, it's only positive. Hopefully, you know, we do get a national body. Hopefully that will change the funding, you know, the funding opportunities throughout the sector. And also, you know, hopefully if we get a legislation, you know, it'll be the first legislation for youth work or recognised for youth work. You know, we have got legislations, but maybe not specifically for youth work. So I think that will be, you know, that's going to be historic you know,
Couple of game
that's
changers,
that's
isn't it?
going to be a complete game
Yeah.
changer, and I'm here for it. Like, I'm excited.
That's good. No, that's really good to hear, and it's good to be positive about it. And I suppose it brings me on to, I got two sort of questions I was going to finish on. I'm going to start with the negative one and then end with the positive one. The first one, in terms of the future, is there anything you're sort of anxious about, scared about? So I know we talked about recruitment, retention and things like that. So is there anything you think, well, I'm not liking the way this is going, or actually I think this could be better, or...
I think just, even though I can completely contradict myself here now,
Yeah.
but I think, it's just the legislation, because we don't know at this moment in time, do we?
No.
Like, you know, there's been meetings and there's been, you know...
That's the Empower Hours, isn't it?
There's been the Empower Hours, but
Yeah.
actually, truthfully, we don't know what is going to come out of the legislation.
Do you feel as if it's a little bit out of your hands, that bit?
Yeah, it's just out. I just feel like we can't control it. Like, whatever is implemented is ultimately up to government, Welsh government, and that is the way it is.
So that's
really.
quite an anxious time, isn't it? You sort of given your views, and it's gone back to the minister.
Yeah.
The minister will have a little mull over and maybe...
But I, like, you know...
Yeah.
I don't... I'm not jealous of the minister's, you know, decision there, because ultimately, you know, one decision is literally going to change the whole sector. You know, youth services that have been running for years, like brownies and clubs, and you know, it's going to impact everyone.
Oh, 100%. I wouldn't like to be in her position making.
And
that
I just
decision.
don't think they realise. And the safeguarding stuff, like, you know, the safeguarding changes. For training.
The new framework. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a bit scary, I think. Not so much for YMCA Swansea. Like, I think we'll be fine. Like, you know, that's not a big thing for us. But I think just for young people in general, like, that decision hasn't been made with the youth work sector in mind.
Yeah.
And, like, there's going to be youth services closing because of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I suppose to wrap up then, what are you excited about? What's something you think, oh, do you know, I'm looking forward to this? I know you pretty much already said it in terms of, we both agree there's this rumblings, isn't it? In terms
There's
of
rumblings, and I think you've just got to be positive.
Yeah.
Like, you've got to have a positive mindset, and I think, you know, if I'm selfish, I'm just thinking of YMCA Swansea. You know, I feel prepared. You know, I'm in the know. I'm continuously engaging and networking with, you know, my peers across the sector. You know, I'm a trustee for Quivis, so I get to know information. There's organisations out there that don't get involved so actively into the sector like I do, and I just feel like, you know, it's going to come and they're not going to know. They're not going to know, you know.
You've got to get involved, isn't it?
Got to get involved. Yeah.
Get your voice heard.
Yeah. So, but I feel positive about it. Like, you know, we're just going good places. Like, a lot of things have changed in the last 2 years here, and we're just in a really good place at the moment as an organisation, I feel.
Fab. No, that's really good. Really good. Really positive to hear as well. Like, because you hear a lot of youth services, especially voluntary organisations, that have maybe not so much closing down, but they're sort of dropping their youth work element of it. They're having to chase money which they wouldn't have to chase usually. Money is tight. There's a massive cost of living issue happening. But it's good is you're staying true to your values. You're employing qualified staff, but if they're not qualified, you're training them up, getting them registered and things like that. So it's all really positive. This is what we want others to do, and it's really good example. So it's really good, really positive. I think this might be a good opportunity to plug any social media or anything like that. I don't know if you've got any Twitter. Oh, it's not Twitter, X.
Yeah, well, just at YMCA Swansea or at YMCA_Carlie if you want to follow me. But also training. We do deliver LGBTQ plus awareness raising for professionals and understanding young carers. Understanding young carers is
Where can they get that information from? So
our website, so we advertise all of our understanding young carers training in advance on Eventbrite.
Okay.
And obviously if you want specific training for your organisation, we can come and deliver that separately. It's all free. We don't charge for our training. The LGBTQ plus provision is a bit different. It is free, but we want to try and put some money back into young people if we can. So, you know, donations are that's not unreasonable. Well accepted. That's not
no, it's not unreasonable at all. No. So if you have any links, send it across. I'll put it in the... I'm not sure how it works on YouTube. There's normally a little bit of a section you can add some sort of links and things like that.
I'll give you some links.
Give me some links, and then if you want to follow YMCA, I recommend you do so. And
thanks.
I think we'll bring this to an end. And thank you, Carlie. I appreciate your time today.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
For updates on new podcasts, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel and click the notification button. If you want to be featured on the podcast, email ets@wlga.gov.uk. This is Youth Work, a podcast about youth workers delving into their journey, how they got into youth work, and more.